Right now, roughly 2 billion people on Earth are under the influence of the same psychoactive drug. It's in the coffee on your desk, the tea in your hand, the soda in your fridge, and the chocolate bar in your drawer. It crosses your blood-brain barrier in under 20 minutes. It restructures your neurochemistry within an hour. And if you stop taking it abruptly, you will experience clinically recognized withdrawal symptoms, headaches, fatigue, irritability, difficulty concentrating, that the World Health Organization formally classified as a medical syndrome. The drug is caffeine. It is the most widely consumed psychoactive substance in human history. And the majority of the 2 billion people who take it daily have never been told what it actually does. Because here's the first thing to understand. Caffeine does not give you energy. Not a single molecule of energy. What it does is far more interesting and far more deceptive. Every moment you're awake, your brain is accumulating a molecule called adenosine. Adenosine is a byproduct of neural activity. The more your brain works, the more adenosine builds up. Think of it as a biological timer. As adenosine levels rise, it binds to adenosine receptors in your brain, and each binding event makes you feel incrementally sleepier. After 16 hours of wakefulness, adenosine levels are high enough that the signal becomes overwhelming. You feel exhausted, your eyelids get heavy, your attention drifts. This is sleep pressure. It's one of the 2 primary systems that drive sleep, alongside your circadian rhythm. Caffeine's molecular structure is almost identical to adenosine. Not similar, nearly identical. It fits into the same receptors like a key into a lock, but unlike adenosine, caffeine doesn't activate the receptor. It just sits in it, blocking it. This means the adenosine your brain is producing has nowhere to bind. The sleep signal is being generated. Your brain is genuinely tired, but the message can't be delivered. The receptor is occupied by an imposter. You don't feel more awake because you have more energy. You feel more awake because the signal telling you you're tired has been intercepted. The fatigue is still there. The adenosine is still accumulating. You just can't feel it. And that distinction between having energy and being unable to detect exhaustion is the difference between a tool and a trap. Caffeine's half-life in the average adult is approximately 5 to 6 hours. That means if you drink a cup of coffee containing 200 milligrams of caffeine at 2 p.m., at 8 p.m. you still have roughly 100 milligrams circulating in your bloodstream. At 2 a.m., 12 hours later, you still have 50 milligrams. That's the equivalent of half a cup of coffee still active in your system when you're supposedly deep asleep. And here's the part most people miss. You may fall asleep fine. Caffeine at residual levels may not prevent sleep onset, especially if you're tired enough, but it degrades the quality of the sleep you get. Studies using EEG monitoring have shown that even moderate caffeine consumption, consumed 6 hours before bed, can reduce deep sleep by up to 20%. Deep sleep is the phase where your brain clears metabolic waste, consolidates memory, and repairs cellular damage. You're not missing sleep. You're missing the part of sleep that actually matters. And because you still slept for 8 hours, you don't attribute the morning grogginess to the coffee you had yesterday afternoon. You attribute it to getting older or needing more coffee, which creates the cycle. Not everyone processes caffeine at the same rate, and the difference isn't about tolerance or habit. It's hardwired into your DNA. The enzyme responsible for metabolizing caffeine in your liver is called CYP1A2. Everyone has the gene, but there are 2 common variants. If you carry 2 copies of the fast variant, CYP1A2-YMHA, you metabolize caffeine rapidly. Half-life closer to 3 hours. The coffee clears your system efficiently. You can drink an espresso after dinner and sleep fine. You're a fast metabolizer, roughly 40 to 45% of the population. If you carry 1 or 2 copies of the slow variant, CYP1A2-11F, caffeine lingers. Half-life closer to 7 to 9 hours. That afternoon, coffee is still meaningfully active at midnight. You're a slow metabolizer, and you're the person who says, "I can't drink coffee after noon or I won't sleep." That's not weakness, that's genetics. A 2006 study in JAMA found that slow metabolizers who drank 4 or more cups of coffee per day had a significantly higher risk of heart attack compared to fast metabolizers drinking the same amount. Same drug, same dose, different biology, different outcome. Your response to caffeine is not about discipline or habit. It's about which version of one liver enzyme you inherited. Most people will never know which variant they carry. They'll just spend decades wondering why coffee seems to affect them differently than everyone else. Here's where caffeine becomes a treadmill. When you block adenosine receptors day after day, your brain adapts. It upregulates. It grows more adenosine receptors. If caffeine is blocking 50 receptors, your brain builds 70. Now the same dose of caffeine blocks 50, but 20 are still available for adenosine to bind. You feel tired again, so you increase the dose. A second cup, a stronger brew, an extra shot. Your brain responds by building more receptors. The cycle continues. Within 7 to 12 days of consistent caffeine use, your brain has substantially recalibrated its receptor landscape. This is tolerance. At this point, your morning coffee isn't making you sharper than baseline. It's bringing you back to baseline, the level of alertness you'd have naturally if you'd never started drinking caffeine at all. You're not gaining an advantage. You're paying to feel normal. And here's the cruelest irony. If you skip the morning dose, you feel worse than a person who never drinks coffee at all. Because your brain has extra adenosine receptors that are now unblocked, creating a sleep pressure signal that is louder than normal. The withdrawal headache, the fog, the irritability. That's not your body needing coffee. That's your recalibrated brain experiencing adenosine at a volume it was never meant to handle. Caffeine didn't create energy. It created a dependency loop, and the loop is self-reinforcing. If you've ever tried to quit coffee, the timeline was predictable, even if it didn't feel that way. Withdrawal symptoms typically begin 12 to 24 hours after your last dose. The headache comes first, caused by blood vessel dilation in the brain. Caffeine constricts cerebral blood vessels, remove the caffeine, and the vessels expand, creating that distinctive throbbing pressure headache. Peak withdrawal hits around 24 to 51 hours. Headache, fatigue, difficulty concentrating, depressed mood, irritability. Some people report flu-like symptoms. The WHO classified caffeine withdrawal as a clinical syndrome in ICD-10. The DSM-5 includes it as a recognized condition. The good news? It's temporary. Most symptoms resolve within 7 to 12 days as your brain downregulates the excess adenosine receptors and returns to its pre-caffeine baseline. After 2 weeks without caffeine, most people report sleeping deeper, waking more easily, and having more stable energy throughout the day, without the peaks and crashes. The bad news: almost nobody makes it today. 12. The withdrawal is unpleasant enough, especially the headache and cognitive fog, that most people reach for a cup by day 2. The dependency renews. The receptor count resets upward. The cycle continues. The FDA considers up to 400 milligrams of caffeine per day, roughly 4 8-ounce cups of brewed coffee, as generally safe for healthy adults. But here's the problem with that number. Nobody drinks 8-ounce cups of coffee. A Starbucks Grande is 16 ounces and contains roughly 310 milligrams, a single drink that's already 78% of the daily ceiling. A venti, over 400 milligrams. You're at the FDA limit in 1 cup, and that's before the afternoon tea, the chocolate bar, the pre-workout supplement, the headache medication with caffeine, or the energy drink your college-age child is consuming at 600 milligrams per can. The average American adult consumes roughly 200 to 300 milligrams per day. Heavy coffee drinkers routinely hit 500 to 700 milligrams without realizing it, because caffeine content varies wildly by brand, brew method, and serving size. A single espresso shot is roughly 63 milligrams. A cup of drip coffee from a light roast can exceed 200 milligrams. Dark roasts, perceived as stronger, contain slightly less caffeine per scoop than light roasts, because the longer roasting degrades a small percentage of the molecule and makes the beans less dense. But measured by weight, dark roast has marginally more. The irony, the bold coffee is the weaker drug, unless your barista weighs instead of scoops. After everything I've described, it would be dishonest to end this video by telling you to stop drinking coffee. Because caffeine, used deliberately, has real benefits supported by rigorous evidence. It genuinely enhances physical performance, increasing endurance, reducing perceived exertion, and improving reaction time. These effects are well documented in exercise science and are the reason caffeine is the most widely used legal ergogenic aid in sports. It has consistent associations with reduced risk of Parkinson's disease, type 2 diabetes, and certain liver conditions. Though the mechanisms are still being studied, the epidemiological data is strong. And for acute cognitive tasks, sustained attention, working memory, processing speed, caffeine works. The performance enhancement is real, but the enhancement is largest in people who are not habituated. If you drink coffee every day, the boost you get is mostly just reversing your own withdrawal. The person who gets the most out of caffeine is the person who uses it strategically, not daily. The shift worker who needs it for a night rotation. The athlete who uses it before competition but not during training. The traveler who uses it to anchor a new time zone. Caffeine is a powerful tool, but a tool used every day without understanding its mechanism becomes a dependency. And a dependency that you don't recognize as one because society celebrates it and Starbucks serves it with foam art is the most durable kind. Caffeine is the only psychoactive drug that we give to children, serve at funerals, offer to guests as a courtesy, and consume without a moment's thought about dosage, timing, half-life, or genetic variability. It restructures your receptor landscape within 2 weeks. It degrades your deep sleep even when you think it doesn't. It creates a withdrawal syndrome recognized by the WHO, and it provides its greatest benefits to the people who use it least often. 2 billion daily users. One gene that determines your response. A half-life that reaches into your sleep whether you know it or not. The system is running inside you right now. It's been running since your first cup. And until today, nobody gave you the manual.